What if the biggest mistake of your life looked exactly like the greatest day of your life? Not because you lost the money. Not because someone stole it. But because the moment you became unimaginably rich, you stopped being completely honest with the people who loved you most. This isn't a story about winning a lottery. It's a story about what happens when one secret quietly grows larger than an entire life. If you enjoy psychological stories that stay with you long after they're over, hit like, subscribe, share this video, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? On a cold Tuesday morning in Indianapolis, Ethan Carter left his apartment with exactly $11.43 in his checking account. He didn't check the balance because he already knew it. He'd memorized it. When you're counting every dollar, you don't need banking apps. You need hope. His apartment wasn't terrible. Just small. The kind of place where the refrigerator hummed louder than the television. Where winter air slipped through the old windows no matter how tightly they were shut. He grabbed his keys, his coffee, and headed to work. Traffic crawled as usual. Someone cut him off on the interstate. A warning light flashed on his dashboard. Service engine soon. He laughed. Get in line. Everything in his life seemed to need fixing. His car. His finances. His future. By lunchtime, he'd already unloaded 2 delivery trucks and walked nearly 10 miles around the warehouse. His phone buzzed. It was his mom. He smiled before answering. Hey, Mom. Just checking in, she said. You sound tired. I am. Are you eating properly? He looked down at the vending machine lunch in his hand. Of course. Another tiny lie. The kind nobody thinks twice about. Before hanging up, she said something she'd been saying since he was a teenager. If anything ever gets too heavy, you call me first. I know. And he meant it. At least. He believed he did. That evening, he stopped for gas. While waiting inside the convenience store, a bright digital display above the coffee machines flashed. Jackpot estimated, $318 million. A man behind him joked. Imagine waking up tomorrow and never working another day. The cashier smiled. Happens to somebody every few months. Ethan looked at the sign for a second. Reached into his pocket. Found a few crumpled notes. And bought a single ticket. No lucky numbers. No birthday dates. Just a random quick pick. He folded the ticket. Slipped it into his wallet. And forgot about it before he reached the parking lot. If anyone had asked him that night what the most valuable thing he owned was, he would have pointed at his old pickup truck. He would have been wrong. Very, very wrong. Ethan didn't think about the ticket again. Wednesday became Thursday. Thursday became Friday. The weekend disappeared into laundry, grocery shopping, and another 12-hour shift. By Monday morning, the ticket was still buried inside his wallet. Folded. Forgotten. Exactly where he'd left it. It would have stayed there even longer. If his coworker, Daniel, hadn't walked into the break room waving his phone. Dude, somebody won the jackpot. Nobody looked up. People kept eating. Someone joked. Good. Maybe they'll finally stop showing those commercials. Daniel laughed. They haven't released the numbers yet. Ethan wasn't even listening. He was trying to figure out how to make next month's rent without using another credit card. That night, he emptied his pockets onto the kitchen counter. Keys. Wallet. Loose change. A grocery receipt. And one slightly crumpled lottery ticket. For a moment, he couldn't even remember buying it. Curious more than hopeful, he opened the lottery app. The winning numbers filled the screen. He looked at the first number. Then at his ticket. Match. He smiled. Well, that's $5. Second number. Match. His smile disappeared. Third. Match. His breathing slowed. Fourth. His heart started pounding hard enough to hear it. No. Fifth. Match. The room suddenly felt smaller. His hands became strangely cold. He checked the final number once. Then again. Then a third time. Match. Silence. Complete silence. The refrigerator hummed in the background. A car passed outside. Somewhere upstairs. A neighbor laughed. The whole world kept moving. As if nothing had happened. But inside that tiny apartment, everything had changed. He didn't celebrate. He didn't scream. He didn't jump around the room. He simply sat down on the kitchen floor. Still holding the ticket. His first instinct was automatic. Call Mom. For 29 years. Every important moment in his life had started with that phone call. Good grades. His first job. His first apartment. The day Dad survived heart surgery. His promotion. Every victory. Every disaster. She always heard first. His thumb found her contact. He stared at her name. Then another thought appeared. One that had never crossed his mind before. What if telling people changes everything? He lowered the phone. Just for tonight. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow he'd know what to say. Tomorrow. Never came. The next morning he called the lottery office using a borrowed phone from a shopping center 20 miles away. Not because anyone was following him. Because suddenly, he didn't trust coincidence anymore. Every stranger looked curious. Every security camera felt personal. Every conversation sounded different. By Wednesday, he was sitting inside a private office across from 2 attorneys and a financial advisor. For the first time, someone confirmed it wasn't a mistake. The ticket was genuine. After taxes, his life would never look the same again. One advisor leaned forward. The hardest part isn't managing wealth. Ethan looked up. It's managing people after they discover you have it. That sentence stayed with him. Long after every financial number had faded. When he finally walked outside, the sky looked exactly the same. Cars still filled the streets. People rushed to work. Coffee shops were busy. Nobody recognized him. Nobody knew that the quiet man walking past them had become unimaginably wealthy. And for reasons he couldn't explain. He wanted to keep it that way. The money arrived 3 weeks later. The number on the screen didn't feel real. It looked like a software error. A misplaced decimal. An extra digit. Ethan closed the banking app. Opened it again. The number was still there. Nothing around him had changed. His apartment was the same. His coffee tasted the same. The neighbor's dog still barked every morning at 6:15. Only one thing was different. For the first time in his life, he could buy almost anything. But he couldn't tell anyone. He resigned from the warehouse 2 weeks later. Not dramatically. No speeches. No celebration. Just a polite handshake. I've accepted another opportunity. His manager smiled. Wishing you the best. Nobody questioned it. Ordinary explanations rarely invite extraordinary questions. A month later, he moved to a quiet suburb outside Nashville. A different city. A different routine. A different version of himself. He bought a modest house. Not a mansion. A reliable SUV. Not an exotic sports car. He hired professionals to manage the money. He kept his name out of headlines. The goal wasn't to look rich. The goal was to disappear. For a while. It worked. Until real life found him again. One Friday evening. His oldest friend, Ryan, stopped by. They ordered pizza. Watched basketball. Laughed about high school stories they'd told 100 times before. Then Ryan became unusually quiet. He rubbed the back of his neck. I hate asking this. Ethan looked over. My transmission died. Ryan forced a smile. I can cover most of it next payday, but I'm about $400 short. There it was. The kind of request that had always been simple. When they were both broke. $400 felt impossible. Now. It was less than the interest Ethan earned while brushing his teeth. He could have written a check for $40,000. Ryan would still never know the difference. Instead, he reached for his wallet. Counted out $400. Exactly what Ryan asked for. Nothing more. Ryan stared at him. You just saved me. Ethan smiled. No problem. Ryan folded the cash carefully. You know. He laughed. If one of us ever gets ridiculously rich, you'll still answer my calls, right? Ethan laughed too. I hope so. But those words echoed long after Ryan drove away. Because he already wasn't answering every call. Especially one. His mother's. She still believed he was settling into a new job. She still thought money was tight. She still mailed him homemade cookies every few weeks. Inside every box, there was always a handwritten note. Asterisk, don't work too hard. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm proud of you. Asterisk. Asterisk, remember to take care of yourself. Asterisk. He kept every single one. One rainy afternoon, he learned something during a conversation with his sister. Their mother was thinking about taking a second weekend job. Not because she wanted to. Because the remaining mortgage payments had become difficult. Ethan ended the call. And sat in silence. He knew he could erase that debt in less than a minute. But if he simply transferred the money, questions would follow. So he did it differently. Through attorneys. Through paperwork. Through a charitable housing program that existed only for this purpose. Everything was legal. Everything was anonymous. 3 weeks later, his mother called. She was crying so hard. She could barely finish a sentence. Ethan. Someone paid off the house. He closed his eyes. What? The bank says an anonymous donor covered everything. I don't understand. Who would ever do something like this? He looked out the window. I wish I knew. She laughed through tears. I've been thanking God all morning. I keep thinking there are still good people in the world. There are, Ethan whispered. I really believe there are. After they hung up, he opened their text conversation. Months earlier, it had been full of long conversations. Now, most of his replies were only a few words. Asterisk, busy. Asterisk. Asterisk, doing fine. Asterisk. Asterisk, talk later. Asterisk. Asterisk, love you too. Asterisk. He realized something. The secret hadn't only changed his bank account. It had changed the son she thought she knew. That night, he started writing a message. Asterisk, Mom, there's something I've hidden from everyone. Asterisk. He kept typing. The ticket. The money. The move. The house. The fear. Every sentence he'd been carrying for months. When he finished, he stared at the screen. His thumb hovered over send. One tap. That was all it would take. Instead, he selected the entire message. Deleted it. Every word disappeared. A week later, he drove 4 hours back to his hometown. He parked across the street from the house he'd secretly saved. The porch light was on. Just like it had been every night since he was a kid. His mother walked into the kitchen carrying a mug of tea. She looked older than he remembered. Not weak. Just tired. He walked to the front door. Raised his hand. Stopped. If he knocked, nothing would ever be the same again. If he walked away, nothing would ever be the same again either. Sometimes, life doesn't give you a choice between right and wrong. Only between two different kinds of truth. He stood there for almost a minute. Then quietly turned around. He walked back to his car. Started the engine. And drove into the night. Some people believe money changes who you are. Maybe they're right. Or maybe it simply reveals the parts of you that were always there. Because in the end, the greatest weight Ethan ever carried was never the fortune. It was the silence. If this story made you think, leave a like, subscribe for more psychological stories, share this video with someone who'd enjoy it, and tell me in the comments, if you were in Ethan's position, would you tell your family the truth, or keep the secret forever?